What if your boss asks you to advise the board whether a new service they are launching is secure? Assume for a minute that you're an information security officer at Mountain Water Co., an expanding bottled water company. The company wants to do a lot of advertising of its bottled water products through its website. The CEO asks you to review the company website and report if it is secure. You dutifully go and have a discussion with the webmaster, and he tells you that the website can be browsed over the internet. The web server accepts all connections and no one needs to authenticate in order to view products. In fact, there is a self-registration page where people can create an account so that they can get product updates. You immediately think back to your cybersecurity trainings where your teacher taught you that authentication is important and that network access to servers should be restricted. You go back to the meeting and communicate to the board that the website is highly insecure and explain why it should be shut down or redesigned. Unfortunately, my friend, you have fallen into the trap generally known as drawing a conclusion without all the facts. Maybe the company doesn't want to restrict only certain people to view their website. Chances are that they want everyone to be able to browse their products and read about their wonderful, refreshing experience of drinking their water. They don't want to force people to solve a CAPTCHA or connect through a highly secure web browser because that would limit their viewership. Let's suppose for a minute that hackers even do manage to make a whole bunch of accounts in their database. Maybe they have nothing to lose. There is no sensitive data like product designs or salary information to steal on the web server. The marketing team wants the maximum possible viewership of the website, and your judgment will definitely hinder their goals. We can't say anything really about the security of the situation until we know what is it that we are trying to protect. What is the purpose of the web server? There could be many situations where this would be fine, right? So whenever you're faced with a situation like this, always take a step back and ask the stakeholders, what does it mean to them or to the system that you are testing to be secure? In short, what is the security policy? Here is another example where you're asked to give a judgment. However, this time the policy is spelled out. Students are prohibited from copying other students' homework files. This is considered as cheating. The computers have file access controls to prevent others' access to your files. Bob does not read protect his files. Alice copies his files. Who violated the policy? Now, you might be tempted to say that Alice and Bob violated the policy and cheated. However, if you look closely to the policy, it only prohibits people who copy and not the people who intentionally or deliberately open up their files to copies. So according to this policy, only Alice cheated because the policy forbids copying homework assignments. Now the system enters an unauthorized state where the Alice is having a copy of Bob's assignment. Bob didn't violate the policy, but Alice clearly did. So if the policy said that students had to read protect homework files, then Bob did breach security. Let's look at policy through the ages. Its primary role has been to provide direction and structure. Policies are the foundation of companies' operations, a society's rule of law, or a government's posture in the world. Without policies, we would live in a state of chaos and uncertainty. The impact of a policy can be positive or negative. The hallmark of positive policy is one that supports our endeavors, responds to a changing environment, and potentially creates a better world. Since the beginning of social structure, people have sought to form order out of chaos and to find ways to sustain ideas for advancement. Policies, laws, courts of justice, and other such documents came into existence as soon as the written world allowed, such as the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, and the Magna Carta. If we put aside the religious aspects of this work, we can examine the Torah's importance from from a social perspective and its lasting impact on the world. So it's a 3,000-year-old document, but it includes business rules that are still in practice today, such as not to use false weights and measurements, not to charge excessive interest, to be honest in all dealings, to pay wages promptly, to fulfill promises to others. Let's look at a document you may be a little more familiar with. The US Constitution is a collection of articles and amendments that provide a framework for the American government and define citizens' rights. The articles themselves are very broad principles that recognize that the world will change. This is where the amendments play their role as additions to the original. Through time, these amendments have extended rights to more and more Americans and have allowed for circumstances that the founders could not have foreseen. The founders wisely built into the framework of the document a process for changing it while adhering to the fundamental tenets. We learned some valuable lessons from the Constitution. Most important is that our policies need to be dynamic enough to adjust to changing environments. Though our cybersecurity policies may not be used for such lofty purposes such as the Constitution and the Torah, the need for guidance, direction, and roles remains the same. When we fast forward and talk about policy today, corporate culture can be defined as the shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterize a company. Guiding principles set the tone for corporate culture. They synthesize the fundamental philosophy or beliefs of an organization and reflect the kind of company that that organization seeks to be. Not all guiding principles and hence corporate cultures are good. In fact, there are companies whose greed and exploitation and contempt are unspoken yet powerful guiding principles. A positive classification is awarded to businesses that strive to create and sustain a welcome workplace and value customer relationship. A positive corporate culture focuses on protecting internal customer information. It solicits input and engages in proactive education and allocates resources appropriately. It makes a strong statement that employees and customers are valued. A negative classification is indicative of a hostile, dangerous, or a demeaning environment. Workers do not feel comfortable, customers are not valued, and maybe even cheated. A neutral classification means that the business neither supports nor hinders their employees, and customers generally get what they pay for. Here is an example of positive and negative classification. Both companies A and B experience a data breach exposing customer information. Both call in experts to investigate what happened and determine that the data protection safeguards are inadequate and employees are not properly monitoring the systems. Now, the difference is how they respond and learn from the incident. So, company A is quick to respond. They blame the department management, they fire key employees, and look for ways to avoid their legal requirement of notifying customers. Company B responds differently. Their leadership shares the report with the department. It solicits their own employee as well as external feedback on how to improve. They research new controls, methodically implement enhancements, and then inform customers in a timely manner so that they can take steps to protect themselves. That is it for this lesson. We learned that policies play a major role in cybersecurity. You can't really pass a judgment on whether a given situation is secure or not unless you have policy that states what it means to be secure. We also saw that policy has had an important role to play in society throughout history, and that today policy continues to play an important role in corporate culture. If you want to be a responsible company where employees feel valued and customers feel safe doing business with you, then you have to establish a positive policy.